You know what is the SLFRS? This is the short form. You have the long wording of the SLFRS. If you know, please just spread it. Or otherwise, you can put it into your chat. What is the SLFRS? This is short form. What about the long wording of the SLFRS? Uh, Future counters. Are you aware about the SLFRS wording? What is the name? In short form. Alright, just answer. What does the SLFRS mean? You need to aware about that. This is the meaning of the SLFRS mean. Thank you. What about others? This small standard, the SLFRS 2 is not a much bigger. This small standard and some point you need to learn. That's the important thing. Amai, what is the SLFRS? Only one student are just answering. What about others? You have to interact with me. Otherwise, you can't do this. Okay. Mm, what is SLFRS? Just asking questions. මම දැන් ගියා Google එකට search කරා copy කරා paste කරා simple. What is SLFRS? මම හිතනවා I'm audible without any disruptions. So please answer. What is the SLFRS? What's the meaning of SLFRS? This is a short form. I'm just asking about the long wording of the SLFRS. The long form. Oh, the students in my class. Thank you, Lamai. Yeah, you are very correct. You mentioned that it's the SLFRS mean Lamai, Sri Lankan Financial Reporting Standard. What is the LKS? Both the same, no? That's the wording. What is the LKS? This is financial reporting. LKS mean accounting standard. That's the difference. Okay, so when you move into the share-based payment, there is a three wording: share, base, and payment. You have to aware about all these three wordings. What is the share? I think share, the wording is very familiar to you. Every day you hear this name, share. Share mean lamai. A share represent the unit of ownership of the company. That means when you have the share of some company, you have the ownership, but only which share? What is the share that transfer the ownership? There is many type of shares, no? What type of shares are transfer your ownership of the company? Only the ordinary shares. Okay, Lamai? The ordinary shares only transfer the ownership of the company. So share mean a unit of ownership in the company dividing total capital into equal and tradable part. That's mean lamai share එකක් කියන්නේ ඇත්තටම that's the dividing total capital into equal part. If the company required 5 million fund, they divided it to the they can divide it to the 1,000 or million or 10 million shares. That's up to company. That's mean That's the value is equally divided. And by owning share, investor become shareholders. I'm just explaining about the shares, okay? I'm go to the uh, content by step. So now only understand, only teach the shares. So if you have the share, ex, expect that is the ordinary share, okay? Assuming by owning share, you have an investor. When we invest in the CSC, you become the investor. When you buying some shares, you can become who shareholder. You can become a shareholder. And shareholder entitled to the portion of the company's profit. If you have the company share, you become a shareholder. According to according to the Companies Act, you become the liable for the company's profit or loss based on your proportion of shares what you have. Okay, Lama? And companies sometimes pay dividends when the company earns profit without any losses. That they will definitely pay the dividends. In most companies are paying dividends. In most recently, many of the companies are CSC paid the dividend. This is general thing. Okay, Lama? When we are paying dividends in the companies, in their disclose the about their dividends in the CSC, what happened to the share price in the share market? If you are the investor of the CSC, you all know that what happened when some companies disclose about the dividend. Before paying the dividend, they need to disclose we will pay the dividends in future date. So what happened to the market price? That means share price in the CSE of that kind of situation. Namai. මොකද වෙන්නේ? Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, that kind of situation, definitely share price gone up. So that's mean the portion of profit as a dividend you can get when you have the shares. And in addition to that, you have you have the voting rights. I'm just to tell, assuming these are the ordinary shares, okay? This is the assumption. And we have the some ordinary shares, what you have another option. We have the voting power. When we look at the ownership of the share, a share is signified as a part of ownership of a company, also known as a equity or stock. When we can call as the shares as equity or stock, just only name. And many kind of shares are available in the market. What are those? Ordinary shares, preference shares, under preference share, redeemable, or irredeemable, and under ordinary shares, there's a voting rights, voting ordinary shares, or non-voting shares. This kind of different shares are available on the market. And what about the risk and return? When you are buying the shares, assuming that the share is the ordinary share, okay? When you are buying some shares from the stock market, what happened to the risk and return? When you are buying ordinary shares from the CSC, with the buying of that share, the risk and return at the same time pass it to you. Because you assume that when a company is going to bankrupt, in that situation, after the paying all the liabilities and obligations, you have the company need to pay for you. But in that case, the company already getting loss. How much you can get from that? You can't get anything. That is mean the risk, Lamai. And when I talk about the return, when the company performing well and they establish their branches and their engagements are going more profit and such situation, you can get a higher dividend based on the earnings. So that is the risk and return. Both are transfer when you are buying shares. That's the one characteristic of the shares. The market. What is the market? The shares are trading. What is the place that we, what is the name of that place? Yes, yes, Uta. Thank you. You are very correct. You mentioned that is the Columbus Stock Exchange, the CSE. Shares. Shares are used to payment of base of payment. What's that mean? ළමයි මේ shares අපිට use කරන්න as a payment method. Why we use shares as a payment method? As a simple example, you think you are the employee of the company. During the few months, you serve your service to company, but they not paid anything for you for your service, for your education. But after the 1 month period, they tells you, I will give 100 shares of the company for your service. ඔයා සර්විස් එකක් දුන්නා නම් ඒ සර්විස් එක වෙනුවෙන් ඔයාට දෙනවා shares 1000ක්. හැබැයි සල්ලි දෙන්නේ නැහැ. ඔයා මේ shares තියාගන්න. You are the owner of the company. You become a shareholder of our company. That are the simple example of the share-based payment. So why am we are going to this kind of transaction? There is a major things, major advantages. The customers, they can protect and balance their cash flow. Without paying cash, they can offer the shares of the company. That's the one thing. Instead of the paying employees, directors, suppliers, fully in cash, company can use shares. This is not limiting to the employees, Lamai. Okay, assuming that you are the organization. You take the some services, some material, some consultancy services from the others. In such cases, you can offer shares for all other parties. Okay, it's not limiting to employee. The students are taking mistaken this SLFRS 2 only applicable for the employees. Not that. Okay. And second advantages is the share-based payment. That is the motivation and retain employees. That's mean lamai. What is shares 1000ක් දෙනවා. They offer 100, they offer 1000 shares for you. What do you think? I am the owner of the company now. I have the power. And what about your motivation? Your motivation going up. And what about your performance with the motivation? Definitely going up. That is the one method of the motivation. In many companies, and many companies, they say the employees are serve more than the 10 to 12 years. Some companies offer the shares of the company for that employees. That's the way of retaining those employees. And third thing is the align interest with the shareholders. Employees and employees and management will work together, increasing the company's value because they are reward depending on it. The reduced conflict between owners and managers. That means, Lamai, when we are working in the companies, we definitely troubling our decision making process because some people are arguing, some people are not agree with the decisions. And when we management is taking some action, but employees are does not agree to that. That is the argument. That is the difficulties in the management versus employees. So in that case, when we offer the some shares to company employees are think I'm only employee. No, they are think I'm owner of the company. So their vision is going broad than the employees. In that case, the companies agree to some decision made by the management Because management is always taking decision based on the what profit. The companies run කරන්නේ නිකන් නෙවෙයිනේ. They need to earn profit. So that's the one thing. Another thing is the attract talent. That means if the market have more talented employees, how we can get them into our company? That's the only way. The one way of the that is share based payment. Please come to our company and we give the 1,000 shares for you. There's that kind of situation. Those employees are getting motivated. So in that cases, we can attract more talented, more experienced, and more expertise employees to our organization. There is another advantage of the share-based payment. And these things are not included in the slide. You have to just put a note, okay? I'm not put all the things in the slides. And pay supplier for acquisition. Sometimes company use share instead of cash for paying goods, service, or even acquire another company. In your consolidation account, what happened? How we acquire another company? How we acquire another company? By purchasing what? That company becomes subsidiary or associate of our company. Just answer. If the company buy another company, what is the thing that they buy from another company to become a associate or joint venture or something? Yes, thank you, Puta. Yeah, you are very correct, Milan. Shares. Through the shares, that's the mean of share-based payment. In that case, as also have the share-based payment method. But this standard is not applied for the consolidation. Okay, Lama? It's covered by the another standard. And another advantage is the share-based payment, that is the flexibility in compensation. Share-based payment can include shares given directly or share option or performance-based shares. In some cases, there is some condition. If you achieve this target, I will offer this much of shares for you. It's the performance-based shares. In some cases, the company will offer share option. In the next few slides, you can see about the share option. It's the major way of the share-based payment, Lamai. And Lamai, during the session when I'm going disrupted, please let me know, okay? Because there is a error message. I'm very sorry for the disruption. I think there is some issue. Now you can hear me properly. Namai, please answer through the chat. Yeah, okay. Thank you, Buddha. So, when we talk about the advantages of the share-based payments, the final one is the company can offer shares as a payment in few ways. Okay, Lama. In next few slide, you can see it. So when we move into the next slide, what's about learning outcomes? When we are going to learn about the structure and content of the SLFRS2. I'm already uploaded the relevant standard extraction in the LMS, Lamai. Please refer that with my lecture slides. I'm already create the lecture slide using that standard and other material as well. So please look at both in your exams. Okay. So in this, when I talk about the learning outcome, end of this session, be able to understand the structure and content of the SLFRS2. It's a SHA-based payment, and you have to get an idea about how we apply, how we initially recognition, how we subsequently recognition this SHA-based payment, and how we account those things in the profit and loss, and as well as the financial position. Okay, Lama? And in addition to that, during this session, you have to able to incorporate accounting transaction and adjustment in accordance with the SLFRS2. That means how we count this, how we get a double entry for these kind of SHA-based payment. Those are the learning outcome of this session. And one thing, Lama, you have to learn more about the SHA-based payment. Don't limit into my slide, and you have to many kind of materials, and you have the LMS, you have the reference books, and you have the Google, you have the some AI tools as well. Please use all the things for your learning. So, okay, I'm just showing the direction. And next is the what is the SHA-based payment? You have to know it properly after this session. Okay. What is the SHA-based payment? SHA-based payment is when a company pays employees, directors, or others. Okay, now it can be director, employee, or other supplier, or other creditor. It's not limited to employee. Remember that. Okay. SHA-based payment occurs when an entity buy goods or what or services from other parties, such employees or suppliers that can be creditors, and settle the amount payable by issuing the shares or debenture. So, Lamai, share-based payment is when a company pays employee directors. As I previously teach, share-based payment is not belongs to employees. Okay. So when a company gives the shares, the person become part owners of the company. When the share-based payments are happen on the situation where we give the services or some where you receive the services or some kind of raw materials or some other kind of materials, when we have to pay for that. Okay, when we purchasing and we were consuming in servicing services or goods, we have to pay for that. Okay. හැමදාම නිකන් දෙන්නේ නැහනේ. මේ කැම්පස් ඇවිල්ලා Wi-Fi ටික නිකන් දෙනවා. එහෙම දෙන්නේ නැහැ. So we have to pay for that. You can choose the payment. You have the many kind of payment method. You can use your cash, credit card, check. In addition to that, we can, if you have the company, you can offer the share. That's a simple thing. When you consuming in services or some other goods from others, if you have a company, assume you are a company, you can offer the shares. That is the share-based payment simply, Lamai. So that's kind of logic behind the share-based payment. When you move into the next, there are what have objective of the standard. What are the objectives mean? When you are referring the standard, all standard there is similar wording. objective mean, objective क्या है, scope क्या है, initial recognition measurement, subsequent measurement, disclosure. Those are the common things when we are going to prepare a financial statement for our uh, parties. When we have to follow this standard, under that standard, that clearly mentioned what is the objective, what is the scope, what is the how we are limiting to this transaction, what type of transaction that relevant is applicable for. That's kind of, you have to uh, practical experience how to work on that standard. Your knowledge is not enough for that kind of situation. You have to develop your skills. How we apply this standard practically. You have to think practically, Lamai. Otherwise, you can't answer the question. You just answer the question, but you are going to the corporate world, you are can be survival in there. We have the practical examples. We know the situations. So, objective of the standard. That's mean objective of this standard is to specify the financial reporting by an entity when it undertakes a share-based payment transaction. In simply, how we are show profit and loss, how we show the relevant things in profit or loss or financial position. That's a simply objective, Ramai. In this standards, we direct into the how company records share-based payment on its financial statement. In simple terms, when the company gives share or share option as a payment, I think I previously mentioned that there is a share-based payment that can be two ways: the directly shares or uh, share option. When in the next side, you can learn those things. And when a company gives share or share option as a payment, it must properly show in the accounts. That's mean, අපි share එකක් හරි based on the share option, we have to do some payment. We have to show that in the properly in our account. That is the ultimate simply objective of the standard. And in there mentioned to specify the financial reporting. This means Lamai, the accounting standard explain how company should record and report share-based payment. So it's rule or guidance of accounting. This standard provide rule or guidance how company should record those kind of payments. That is the main of to specify the financial reporting mean. In the second part, you can see that it required an entity to reflect in its profit or loss and financial position. That means Lamai, company must show the effect of share-based payment in the profit or loss. Simply we can call as income statement and financial position. Simply balance sheet. So that is the main objectives. In addition to that, even though the company is not paying cash, in the share-based payment, there is no any cash payments. It is still cost. අපි cash වලින් ගෙවුවත් that but that can be expense when we consuming some services, but we not paying cash, but also we paying by using our shares. In that case, service consumer service consumable is what? The consuming service is become a cost instead of paying method. Okay, Lama? When we are simply example, when we get if you get a teacher like me, when I'm providing services, okay, when I'm providing services, still I'm providing services for you. That for that they need to pay for me. In such situations, it is expense for the company or not. The university major cost is the lecture salary. This can be happen. It's expense, no? Instead of paying the cash, the university offer the shares. University can't offer shares, assuming that, okay? In such case, expense has always become expense. That's the meaning. So, the company must record it. It's an expense in the profit or loss. Definitely it happened instead of the payment method. Okay, Raman? And the same time, it must be shown in the balance sheet. In the balance sheet showing, we have the separate ways. In next few slides, you can see that. As example, Lamai, a company gives an employee share option worth of 1 lakh. A company gives an employee the share option. The worth is the 1 lakh. The company will record 1 lakh as an expense on the profit or loss because this is expense, no? And this will reduce the profit. Definitely, it reduce the profit, Lamai. And in the balance sheet, it will be shown as the equity. Under what happened in the next slide, next double entry. The first double entry going to the expenses, other double entry going to the equity. Because when we offering the shares, the equity, what happened? Equity will increases. So with that, I think you have to clear about the objective of the standard. So when we move into the scope, so in my previous session, I also mentioned what is the scope mean. Lamai, don't leave the meeting because I'm get your attendance through the Zoom. Okay, I'm not putting any QR code. I'm just running the report on the Zoom so that that will shows what is the duration you stay in the meeting and how many times you leave. That all the things were clearly shown in the report. Please uh, join the lecture and be interactive. Okay. So, Lamai, what is the scope mean? What is scope standard? Every standard that clearly mention the scope. තමයි scope එක කියන්නේ මොකක්ද? Let me just ask what is the scope? What you know about the scope? Simply, what is the scope mean? So every standard, there are some heading. That's mean, that's mentioned scope. තමයි what is the scope mean? You have any idea? තමයි what is the scope? What is the scope mean? In your every standard that there is the scope. I'm just asking, what is the scope mean? Simply, what is the meaning of the scope? Mission කියලා තියෙන ඒ වගේම තමයි scope කියලා තියෙනවනේ හැමදාම. Let's see what is the applicable areas of the relevant standard. Okay, good. What about others? I'm using two devices, that's why I'm just looking the two different windows. Right. What about the scope? Am I only few students answer the question? I'm just asking about the scope. What's the meaning of the scope? I'm just asking question to you get up more interactive and it's very easy to understand the lesson. Okay. So why I asking questions? But I'm not nominating anyone. Just you can just put a chat directly or indirectly. You can put a message on your chats. What is included and what is not included. Okay, Puta. Nice. Boundaries of something. Something mean what? Okay, thank you for your answers. When we writing questions in your exams, you have to definitely and clearly shows the answer. Okay, just not simply by the වචන දෙකෙන් ලියලා එන්න එපා. ගොඩක් ලියන්න ඕනෙත් නැහැ. Just explain what you want. That's the must. So scope is mean like limiting. Simply limiting. This kind of transaction are only applicable for this standard. That's a simply say in the scope in refers to the stand. Thank you for all for your answers. That means simply scope. In this slide, you can explain where and when the share-based payment standard is applied. In simple terms, the scope tells us which transaction must follow this standard. That's a simply meaning of the scope of the standard. The standard applies when a company enters into share-based payment transaction. Only what? Only entering into the share-based payment, right? And that's mean any situation where the company give shares or share options. And previously tell about shares or share option are both are the method of what? Method of share-based payment. And it applied to the employees, directors, and even external parties. As I previously very correctly mentioned, this standard not limiting to employees. When you are paying through the shares for any other external parties, this will become under this standard. Okay. And type of transaction into the scope. In this scope, there is some few transaction type. There is equity settled transaction and cash settled share-based transaction, and no both. That can be happen. Those are the type of transactions. Okay, lamai. The equity settled transaction mean lamai, the company actually offers some shares. That is the equity base. When you are when assume you are the company, you receive some services from the cleaning services. In such case, and you continuously work with them more than the 20 to 30 years, so you trust them and you have to motivate them so that you selected to offer some shares to that company, offer the shares to the cleaning service. Okay, you are the company, no? So in such cases, they actually provide shares. That means equity settled share-based payment transaction. Okay, Lamai. And another way is the cash settled transaction. When you have the as we taken previous example, when we are receiving some cleaning services, we offer some shares, but not hand over it. We just telling them to we offer 100,000 value of shares. Value of shares. Okay, Lamai. So after the some days, what happened to value of shares? Definitely it can be increased or decreased. Based on that, they pay cash. Okay. In that cases, they not directly hand over the share. Based on the share value, they do their transaction. That's mean the cash settle share-based payments. Okay, Raman? And another thing that can be used both. If a company like cash settle or share settle. So simply equity settle. The company can select either one. Company means service organization. Okay, as per the previous example. Or another example, if a company uses supplier instead of the paying, if a company gives supplier shares instead of paying cash for their services, this transaction comes under the scope of the standard. Okay. Scope mean limiting. That's the simply how we can define the scope of the standard. The standards only applicable for the equity settled share-based payment, cash-based cash settled share-based payment, or both. You have to remember this. If you have the receiving some transaction in your exams, you can select either. By using this, it is becoming equity share-based or cash-based or both or some other thing. If you have some other thing, you have to remove that answer. If not apply this standard, you have to clearly identify. If you have the more information on this, the equity settle, cash settle, you can refer standard. In the standard, some you have to some names. You have to know about some practical names. You can see the last pages of the standard book, and that in there, the clearly mention of the definition of the each wording that's included in the each standard. Okay, Lamai? So when you move into the share-based payment transaction, that's a simply topic. A share-based payment transaction means when a company make a transaction where the payment is done using shares or shares option, as I previously mentioned, instead of cash. Mudal venuwata. As mean instead of cash. The purpose of this is to show how a company should report its transaction in financial statement. In the objectives of the standard, that's very correctly mentioned, how we presented in the financial statement of this kind of transaction. That's the objective. And when the company gives shares, for example, to employee, that's the employee, not limiting to employee. Okay, I'm just putting examples. If it is not free, it's considered a cost to the company. So according to the accounting rule, the company must record this an expense on profit or loss, as I previously very correctly mentioned. We offer the shares instead of the cash by receiving the goods or service. We have to mention, without receiving anything, we can't offer the shares to others. Okay. In such situation, it's not belong to this standard. Actually, according to the SLFRS 2, that we need to receive any goods or some services from the third party. Only such situation we can offer the shares. In such kind of transaction, only belong to SLFRS 2, man. And there is an incurred an obligation. Sorry. There is a incurs an obligation to settle the transaction with the supplier in share-based arrangement when another group entity receive those goods or services. That's mean, Lamai, we have incur some obligation when we receiving the services, goods. What we need to do? We have to pay. That's mean, Lamai, incur of the obligation. We have to pay. That is the obligation of ours. That's the thing that there is some obligation need to be incurred. So you have to know such kind of situations are practically apply for this standard. Okay. When you are selecting some cases, you have to know what is the relevant standard this case belongs to. So in such situation, you can take this point. If we receive good or services and we incur some obligation for on behalf of these shares or services, that's the thing. Okay, that kind of situations we can select SLFRS 2 is the applicable standard for this transaction. That's the things what I mentioned in the slides. Okay, go to it properly. And another thing, the most common type of share-based transaction, as I previously said, that share option we meet in the next few slides. And this is the time we can see what is the most common type of share-based payment. This is the share option level. Are you hear about the share option? Are you hear about the share option? What do you know about the share option? Some definitions or whatever. Please search on your Googles and put the answer in the chat box. At least you have to know. You can learn. Only giving the direction. You have to learn. It's a self-learning platform. What is the share option? I'm just asking about the meaning of the share option. Just answer. Are you sleeping? Are you tired? I'm also tired. But we have to do it. What is the share option? Just give me the answer. Simple answers. What does share option mean? What is the share option? Meaning of the share option. Answer. Only one student is already answered. Okay, nice. I appreciate your effort. The share option is a contractual rights given to the individually, usually an employee, investor, or executive, to buy shares of a company at a fixed price. Call the exercise or strike price at a future date or within the specific period. Yes, that's good. A special benefit given by the company to its employee that allow them to buy the company shares in the future at fixed price. In here, not mention some important wording. Okay, Lama? And it's a contractual contract that given an individual to write by, not the obligation to purchase specific. You just put my answer, no? No. Okay, thank you. I'm very appreciate your effort. What about others? Only it four students are reply. What about others? I mean, you have to engage with me. I know you are tired. You are went to some internships. I know, but you have to interact with the session. Only 3 hours, no. What you know about this share option? I'm just asking the definition of the share option. What is the share option mean? Just answer me. Right. What is the share option mean? I'm just asking about the why company shares later at the pre-agreed price. Okay, nice. But in here, some important wording are missing. I appreciate your answer. It's mentioned that buy company shares later at the pre-agreed price. So okay, but in here, some important wording is missing. You have to learn that properly. Ramai, what's about others? You have to interact. Interact pay. What is the buy share option? Sorry, what is the share option mean? What is the missing word here? When I just speak the answers, so what is the missing word in many of answers? What is the important thing? That's the obligation, lamai. Share option. Share option mean lamai a contract that give the holders the right but not the obligation to subscribe to the entity's share as a fixed or determinable price for the specific period of time. In here, when I simply tells about that, the share based share option the company give a number of shares to the external party who provides services or goods that can be employee or director or supplier or otherwise other person can be happen. The company offers some portion of shares of the company to particular person, but that person can accept it or not based on his judgment, based on his mindset. That is mean that not a obligation. They not definitely take it. They can reject or accept. It's up to that person. That's the mean the obligation number. That's the important wording on here. For company not having any right. Company has a right, but person is not a obligation. They are not liable to take it as it is. They can reject or take it. So when I talk about more about the share option, is provide to right to buy shares, but not an obligation. They can choose whether to buy or not on his perspectives. These shares are offered as a fixed price, decided in advance. That means that can be fixed price and within specific time period. That can be specific, and also I want to add something that price can be fixed or determinable. It's mean variable that can be determined after the issues. That also can be happen. And a share option means simply share option means employees can buy company shares later at fixed price, but they are not forced to do so. That's the remember. Please remember that. In when you get a simple example, if the fixed price is 100 rupees, the market price later than become 150. In such a case, the employee can buy at 100 and gain benefit because in simply today your company shares is trading at 100 rupees. Or otherwise the company issue 100 shares prices at one shares price at 100 rupees. So you offer some 1,000 shares. Okay. Then we have some specific period now in the share option. So today is the assuming that today is the Jan 1st. The share option expired on the 31st December. During this period, employee can buy mean accept or not. When you assuming that in the April 1st, the prices gone up to the 150. So what about the capital gain from one share 50 rupees? In such a cases, that company employees can accept this share option based share based transaction. In such a case, they can gain huge capital gain. In other hand, if you think now we are in the April 31st. April 31st, the share price was reduced to 90 rupees. So what happened in such a cases? It's the loss for the employee. on the perspective of the him. So he very familiar to get a cash instead of the shares because the shares prices are going significantly reducing over the year by year. So in that case, decision is up to employee or the third party who provide services or good to the company. Okay, Lama? That means the share option. You have to know about the share option. Okay. Uh, Next slide. What is the slide? What's it about? Yeah. Type of share-based payment. As I previously mentioned, there is a two type of shares. Two, no, there is a three. Okay, this three can be happen. It's both. That's not a major type. When we talk about what is the chat, what's the about? Okay, okay, okay. Thank you. Uh, Type of share based payment. There is a two type of share based payments, Laman. The first one is the equity settled share based payment transactions. Mm. So, so the first type of the share based payment is the equity settled share based payment. What is the meaning of equity settled share based payment? I'm previously said that, no? In previous some slides, I explained those equity settled share based payment transaction also. So, Raman, what is the equity settled transaction? You have to learn. You have to learn from where you can use either by book, either by web, either by AI. What is the main of equity settled share based payment? Raman, මොකක්ද equity base equity settled share based payment එක කියන්නේ? Just find the answer. Just given 2 minutes. You have to identify what is the equity share based payment and what is the cash settled share based payment. Please use your AI, Google, whatever. Just answers on chat box. We're just asking of the simply. In addition to the slide, okay, just don't put the slide points into the chat. You have to find, you have to learn what is the equity settled share based payment mean? What is the cash settled share based payment? Please simply identify and put that answers into chat or otherwise voluntarily can unmute and talk. I appreciate that. Please, what is the equity? Just give a 2 minutes to find the answers. Only one student answer the question. Only one. What about others? Others are sleeping. Oh, next answer I received. Thank you. Lamai, it, it is when a company pays for the goods or services using its own shares instead of cash. That means, Lamai, commonly we can call as a share-based payment. I'm just asking about the cash-based, equity-based, equity-settled share-based payment and cash-settled share-based payment. So definition for these two, not only common definition. That's a common definition, Lamai. I'm really captured your answer, but you have to answer what I actually asked. මොකක්ද ඉක්විටි සෙටල් ෂා බේස් ට්‍රාන්සැක්ෂන් එකක් කියන්නේ මොකක්ද කෑෂ් සෙටල් ෂා බේස් පේමන්ට් එකක් කියන්නේ so far we learned about the company how we can pay instead by using shares instead of the cash. So equitable share based payment mean the company gives shares or share option. No cash is paid. Just only send the cash. That's the actual shares are sharing among the who provide services or some goods to the company. But in the cash settle based share payment, there is a company pay cash, but the amount depend on the share price. I mean that means in the cash settle transaction, they pay by using the cash. But based on what? Based on the share price. That's the difference. In the equity based transaction, we actually offer actual shares. Okay, we not paying any cash. But in the cash settle share based payment, there is some cash outflow in there, but based on what? Based on the share price. So that's up to the standard of SLFRS 2. That's the cash based settlement. There is payment based on the share price that can be happen. That can be scope into the this standard. That's the cash based equity settlement. Okay, Raman. I think you have got to know about the difference of between those two. So let me move into the next. Next is the recognition. As the standard mentioned that the scope, recognition, measurement, those kind of are commonly in the standard. In the recognition, what we are going to do? We need to recognize share-based payment. This is SLFRS 2. So we have to record it. So in this slide, introduce the concept of the recognition in the share-based payment. Recognition means when and how we record something in the financial statement. කොහෙද අපි මේක record කරන්නේ කොහොමද record කරන්නේ? That's up to the recognition. In accounting, it is not enough to know that's the transaction happen. We must to decide when should it be recorded and where should it be recorded. That's the main thing under the recognition. These things are same for the all standard. Okay, you have to be aware about the recognition part. When you are seeing the recognition part, that's clearly mentioned. You have to come to your mind about the when should we record it and where should we record it. That's the main question by answer. That's the main question that answer in the recognition part of the standard. Okay. So in the share-based payment, recognition is very important because the company is given share instead of the cash. So we need to decide how to show this in the accounts. That means where we need to show in how we show that in the financial statement. That's a simply answer by the recognition part of the standard. If you have any other concerns, please go and see the self-RS2 recognition part. Okay. The main idea of recognition is whether the company receive good or service. Must be record them in the financial statement. At the same time, the company gives share, it increase the equity. When we pay, as I previously mentioned, when we paying some expenses by the cash, what happened? Cash decrease, expense increase. In such a case, we not use cash. In that case, we use only shares. What happened? Lamai, what happened when we are paying the our supplier or our service provider or our good provider by using the equity? What happened to equity? Lamai, only two answers. Only three answers. Increase, decrease, or remain same. What is the answer, Lamai? When you offering the our shares to the supplier who provides services or goods to our company. In such a cases, what happened to our equity? Just put the answer. What happened to our equity? Increase, decrease, or remain the same when you offering the shares to other party? What happened? I don't leave the meeting. What happened? What happened? What happened to equity? I'm just simply asking. We service එකක් කරන් සල්ලි වෙනුවට shares දෙනවා. What happened to equity of our company? It is increasing, decreasing, or remain the same? Simply answer. Increase. What about others? What's about others? What happened to our equity? Let me. Thank you. Rename කරන්න එපා. What happened? Let me දිසානායක. Oshadi. Vasindu Dilshan. Are in the meeting or sleeping? When you are renaming those names, I'm just asking from your student now. So answer me. Namai. Yes, thank you, Buddha. Yes. Yes, thank you. When we are receiving some services, good, we need to pay. We have the obligation to pay. In such case, we use the shares instead of the cash. In such case, the issuers of the shares that become equity going to increase of the company. Okay, Lama? That definitely happen. And if it promises to pay cash later, it creates a liability. In some cash-based payment transaction, there can be happen a liability. Okay. So recognition involve two sides. Recognition, the expense. The expense part is definitely happen instead of the cash or some shares. මොකෙන් ගෙව්වත් අපිට මේ expense එක ඔකා වෙනවා. So we have to recognize expense in the profit and loss as it is. Okay. And recognize the payment. If the paid by shares, in the share-based payment, we use the shares as a payment method. In such a cases, we have to record that in the, we need to record in the equities. Okay, Lamai? We have to record. And And another important thing, that's the expense. That's the timing, sorry. The timing. The expense is not allowed to record immediately. It is usually recognized over the period the services is received. This is the common thing, Lama. You already know that. When we are receiving some services, we not need to record it as it is. As a bulk, when we are receiving some services or goods time to time, we have to time to time expense. Not need to wait until the end of the total service. We can do it. That's the simply say. And recognize means Lama is simply recording the cost of share-based payment in the financial statement at the correct time, in the correct place. Where the correct place, profit and loss and financial position. That is the correct place. We have got the share-based payment. When it is going on the shares, we have to increase the equity if it is already become an expense because the service or good received is expense. Okay, so I have to charge to P&L and other part charge to the balance sheet as a equity based on the share issue. So with that, when you move into the next, you can see you have to learn about some important concept. Grant date, vesting date, vesting period. Those are some uh, important concept you have to learn on the SLFRS 2. This wording is very important when you are getting some captions. You have to identify what is the grant date, what is the vesting date, what is the vesting period. Before answering the question, you have to know about these uh, technical names. Okay, Lamai? So what is the grant date mean? The grant date, granting date. The meaning already in the name. Granting dates mean Lamai, the date when the company and employee agree on the share-based payment. If you're taking some timeline, assuming that today is the 1st Jan and our financial period is ending 31st December. So in 1st Jan, you entering with the company. Company just ask him and let you know about the share-based payment. We can offer shares, 1,000 shares for you. We promise him to, they get into agreement on 1st January. That's the date of granting date. The granting mean they give the date of we getting an agreement. That's the date, Lamai. And what is the vesting period? Vesting date means, sorry, vesting date. Vesting date the mean, Lamai, the time period during which those conditions must be fulfilled. What are in some situation, this share-based payment can with the some conditions. For example, think you are an employee of the company. If you have to, if you have to, if you already provide services, the company also agree to provide share as a share-based payment for your service during the 10 years. So in such case, they mentioned that you have to do some course. You have to do some master. You have to do. You have to qualify in your professional exam. That kind of conditions can apply. When the conditions are fulfilled, only if fulfill you can get this share option. That is the condition. That simply we can call as the vesting conditions. So after fulfilling that conditions, the date which the condition are satisfied, that is the vesting date. That's the date actually that that employee, that third party who provides services or good are enabled to get that actual share options, actual shares of the company. That is the date lamai we can call as the vesting date. And vesting period from the granting date to vesting date we can call as the vesting period. Okay. Lamai, these concepts are very important because of they help to decide when the companies when to recognize the expense, and they help to calculate how much of expense we record. So we have to have knowledge on this granting date, vesting period. Okay, so essential thing when you are going to answer the question, you have to carefully listen, carefully identify what is the granting date, what is the vesting date, and what is the vesting period. That's up to you based on your uh, identify date. The calculation can be totally different. So you have to carefully listen and carefully concentrate what is the date of granting, what is the date of period, what is the period, and what is the date of vesting date. So you have to clearly identify those three concepts. If you have any other to clarify on the vesting these concepts, if you have anything, please let me know now. Lamai, any question up to now? Lamai, මොන හරි ප්‍රශ්න තියෙනවද මෙච්චර දවස් මෙච්චර මේ වෙලාව වෙනකම් මේ පාඩමට? Do you have any questions about the session up to now? You have anything? Okay, thank you, Buddha. So when you move into the next part, what is that? Is the example. Okay, thank you. There is an example of the identify those previous set concept. That's the vesting date, granting date. On 1st April 2015, ABC PLC issued 10,000 share options to an employee on the condition that the employee is employed for 3 years. The share option can be exercised on 31st March 2018. So, in here, what is the granting date? Granting date is the 1st April 2015. Because on the 1st April 2015, the company agreed to issue shares. But what is the condition? What is the condition mean? That can be the vesting condition. That's a continued employment for how many years? For 3 years. So what is our vesting period? From the 1st April 2015 to 3 years. What is the day? 31st March 2018. That is our vesting period. From the granting date till the vesting date, we have the vesting period. So vesting date is the 2018 because the 3-year continuous employment condition is satisfied at the date of 31st March 2018. So that can be the our vesting date. Okay. I think you are clear about that. And we have to this is the measurement. This is the important thing. You have to learn how we measure the share-based payment. How we learn Lamai? How we measure this measurement title is already in the old standards, no? Measurements, scope PI. measurement KI, the starting disclose, those are the same topic that mentioned in the all the standards. So what is the measurement? How we measure the share-based payment? I previously said that there is a two type of share-based payment. No? First one is the equity-based, equity settled. Sorry, equity settled share-based payment. Another one is a cash settled share-based payment. So in here only mention the equity settled share-based payment transaction. How to measure? How to measure the equity settled share-based payment? In this case, how we can measure that? A transaction with the employees and equity instrument is granted. Simply lamai in the transaction with the employees and equity instrument is granted. We have to take the fair value of such equity instrument. Okay. Based on the fair value of the such a equity instrument, we get for the transaction. We have to carefully assess the fair value of such kind of equity instrument like a shares, something. Okay. So fair value mean lamai. What is the fair value mean? What lamai? Simple question. What's the fair value mean? What is the fair value? My God. Now it's very engaged. Yeah. Yes. Yes. You are very correct. You mentioned. Thank you. Yes. That's the actual market value. In the fair value, also have some other standards that covering the fair value measurement. In here, that define broadly about the fair value. But simply, we can take that's the actual market value. That's the fair value. So fair value means the actual market value of the shares of the option. Now, an important point in when we measuring this value for equity settled share transaction, when the shares are given, we measure the value at the granted date. This value is usually not changed later. We have initially identified the what at the granting date value, granting date fair value. We have to identify. Okay, Lamai? That is the measurement of the initial measurement of the share-based payment. You have to put a note. Okay. Otherwise, when you are opening these BPD and site on the day before the exam, in such case, you are getting some money away. You have to put a note. You have to be concentrate and be interactive with me. So, what we talk about the initial measurement, and then a transaction with the employee and equity instrument is granted fair value of equity instrument. And second point is the transaction with the party other than employee, fair value of good and service of received. On the other hand, when we provide these shares, we have to fair value of such a equity instrument. Share is the equity instrument. In the other hand, we need to fair value of receiving, fair value of the such a good or service we receive. We have to assess the fair value of both when we are measuring the share-based payment under the SLFRS 2. Okay, that means the actual market value we have to take in the such kind of good and or otherwise the services what we receive. That's the mean of the second point. And third point, transaction with the party other than employee. Fair value of equity instrument transfer. When the fair value of goods are received cannot be measured. In here, that's mentioned that when we can assess the fair value. We can't assess the fair value in such a case of transaction with the party other than employee. Fair value is equity instrument transfer. We have to take on the what we shares the what we share our equity instrument, that's the pair, that is pair value we have to take it as it is for the value of the good and services. Okay, that's the thing mentioned in the third point as well. So when we simply said about the cash equity based settlement, we have to do that. Okay, so next part, and we move into the next thing. There is some, and other thing to I need to add, Lamai. In the cash settle transaction, how we measure that? How we measure? Yeah, right. There is a two type of share-based transaction. First thing is the equity settled share-based payment. The second one is the cash settled share-based payment. I'm just putting the note in here for the equity settled share-based payment. That's the major component of the share-based payment. No? So I'm asking about the what about the cash settled share-based payment? How we measure that? How we measure that? That's based on the share price, no? As I previously mentioned that the cash settle uh, share-based payment is depend on the share price. So how we can measure that? Based on what? Based on change in what? I'm just asking about the small action. When we are measuring, how we measure cash base, cash settle share-based payment. How we can measure that? Am I please answer? We have to discuss about the assignment as well. How we measure the cash settled share-based payment. Yes. The value in the cash settled transaction, the value is measured at the each reporting day because of the company will pay cash based on the changing share price. So we have to concentrate on the changing share price. That's the measurement basis of the cash settled transaction. Okay, Lamai? That's the important thing you have to know about. So when you move into our next one, there is some example. So Lamai, I just give a 2 to 3 minutes to do this example. Please hurry up. Answer. Now, please put your answers to chat box as well. Okay. Don't leave the meeting when I take in the attendance. That will be captured. Okay. Only two students was provided this answers. What about others? I'm really appreciate if you can provide answers and already two students was provided. I'm really appreciate that. Okay, and I will give some 1 minute, another 1 minute. Please answer. Please for you, okay, not for me. I mean, thank you for your valuable answers. So let's discuss what actually happened on here. Uh, in here, ABCPSC entered into the following share-based payment transaction on 1st April 2018. So granted date become the 1st April 2018. Okay. In the first bullet point, the employees was received 1,000 shares option for each employees for 500 employees. shares 1000 ගානේ employees 500කට හම්බුණා. What is the value of the share based payment? What the amount we have to recognize in the P&L, and what's the amount we have to increase our equity? 500 multiplied by 1000. That's the amount. And second bullet point, the supplier was issued 1,000 shares of a company for the purchase of asset amounting 45,000. In here, what is the share value for this transaction? How we can get that? We have to divide 45,000 by 1,000 shares. We can get the consideration amount. That means share consideration. Okay, you have to deduct, you have to expense in this company of purchase. In that cases, purchase asset, no. In that kind of situation, we have to no need to recognizing the profit and all. We have to add that into the PP as under the asset. And other thing was given to the equity. Equity was increased by 45,000. And third bullet point, the supplier was issued 1,000 shares of the company for the service provided by him. Service provided by him, and the fair value of service cannot be determined. In such case, what we have to get that? We have to determine we have to take the value that the equity instrument was transferred. That's the value of this transaction. Okay, we have to in here some value of the per share is missing, so we have to take into that 1,000 shares multiplied by the price of shares. That's been the value of the what we received. Okay, in the final point, market price of a share and share option of a company on this day was 50 and 6 respectively. In accordance with the standard, what we have to get? We have to always get the fair value. We have to recognize on the fair value. What is the market value? Market price that become the fair value. We have to recognize at the 50. That's the market value. Okay. That's the way of uh, recording the such kind of situation. So when you move into the next part, it's uh, in there. Sorry, that's talking. Oh, recognition. How we recognition? Those are the double entries. When we have the some equity settled share based payment transaction, uh, we have to record as expense or asset. We have the all I have already provided the examples for the expense and previous section you have made the asset. So expense or asset account debit, equity goes credit. Equity credit mean what happens equity? Equity goes increase. In a cash settled transaction, there is the expense or asset credit as it is, and in other hand liability because we have to pay by cash. That's a liability lemma. Okay. In the cash settle based transaction, there is not happen the actual share transaction. There is the determination of the price based on the market value of the share. That's the real outflow is the cash. So we have to incur, we have to pay. So that's the liability is created. So what is the reason liability is credit? That's the only thing. Uh, Moving to the now there is some examples. Please do it. Do it quickly. Few example. Two only two. And require the journal entries as well. Please do it. Do it and answer the answer. Send me to the chat box, please. Lamai, please do the example number 3 as well, okay? I've received many answers. Thank you for that. Okay, let's do the revision. So in here, Lamai, ABC PLC issued 1,000 shares options to 50 each to 50 managers of the company on 1st April 2018. The fair value of the share option on this day was 9. That's the important thing, the fair value. I saw some answers are they are getting only shoe pies. We have to take, yeah, as I earlier mentioned, we have to take what? They have to take fair value of the such instruments. So under that, option now exercised by after 3 years. So Lamai, please can you please put the date of vesting date and vesting period and granting date of granting date for this transaction? Okay, thank you, Puta, for your answer. In such case, you have to take the measurement under 1,000. You have to divide multiply it by 9 because the fair value of such transaction was 9. We have to already taken the fair value. Okay, 150,000. That's the answer. When we have to when we get the double entries in here, this option is managers to this expense. So there is a increase of the expense. That means the expense was what happened? Expense debit or credit? Am I? What happened? Expense debit or credit? Expense debit by 450,000 and equity credit by 450,000. That's the double entry and that is the answer. Yes, Putha, thank you. In here, when you want the example number 3, there is only difference, that is the vesting period. Vesting period is limited to 1 year. That's the same thing. Same entries are applicable for this one also. Okay. So if you have any concerns, any doubts, any questions up to now, Lamai, you have anything? And next week, Himasa will take the session and he will explain the LKS 41 as I think. So, do you have any questions or some unclear points up to now for this session? And you have to practice more question and see a website, aka, CMA. In many of the sources, there is the share-based payment questions. Okay, you have to practice more. I'm just put the simple questions, but in the exam that can be harder. The time limitation, I'm just only put some simple example for your understanding. You have to practice more and you have to learn more. You have to refer open book materials as well as the your textbooks and your web AI, anything to learn. It's a self-learning platform. Lamai, please respond if you have any concerns, doubts, or some other things up to now, because we have to discuss about the assignments as well. So what's about that? If you're clear or not, just simple answer. Put in chat. Are you clear? Okay. Thank you, Lama. Thank you. I have to practice more, Lama. That is some difficult questions. And there is some student representation in there. I'm just messaging with the what's the name? Just Chanaga. Chanaga, are you in the meeting? Chanaga innada?
Yes, sir.
ඉන්නව නේද? චානක මං මේ I get the sorry මම ගත්ත මේ group list එකක් මේ ඔයාලගේ presentation වලට 10 member group list එක චානක ටූ තමයි ගත්තේ මට contact කරගන්න පුළුවන් චානක මම හිතන්නේ චානක ඔයාලගෙන් details අරන් තමයි වන්නේ නැත්තේ මම ඒක LMS එකේ available කරන්නම් කරලා අද නැත්නම් හෙට උදේ වෙද්දි මම ඒක LMS එකේ available කරන group list එක දැන්ට මං ගාව තියෙන ඒක ඔයාලා ඩබල් චෙක් කරලා බලන්න ඕන ඔයාලගේ නම් තියෙනවද නැත්නම් මොන හරි මේ ඒකේ නම් නැද්ද කියලා. හරිද? හැමෝම ගිහින් බලන්න ඕන. එතන තියෙන නම් වලට තමයි අපි ලකුණු දෙන්නේ. group 22ක් තිබ්බා මට මතක විදියට මම ඒක available කරන්නම්. නැත්නම් ඔයාලා කවුරු නම දැන්ට දීලා නැත්නම් චානකව contact කරගෙන ඔයාලගේ details ගන්න නැතිනේ form එකක් හරි fill කරලා අන්න ඒක ආපහු refill කරලා මට mail කරන්න. මම දැන්ට මං ගාව තියෙන ලිස්ට් එක මම අවైలබල් කරනවා LMS එකේ ඔයාලට ඒක පොඩ්ඩක් go through කරලා බලන්න ඔයාලගේ නම් තියෙනවද ස්ටුඩන්ට් නම්බරේ හරියද කියලා and group number එක හරිද when we going to your um, assignments what we have to do
සර් මම Google Sheet එකක් තමයි share කරේ. එතන කට්ටියට group මේ leader එකට ගිහින් edit කරන්න එතන.
ආ එතන පුළුවන් නම් චානක මේ group leader ගේ නමක් දාලා එවන්නද එහෙම වෙනවද
ආ හරි
පොඩ්ඩක්
සර් මම
බලලා
කියන්නේ. ඔව්.
හරි assignments ගැන බැලුවොත් what we have to do කියලා මම මෙතන අවైలබල් කරන්න. මෙතන මම දානවා group list එක හැමෝම බලන්න ඕන. මම මෙතන Dropbox එකක් දාලා දෙනවා ඔයාලගේ group assignment එකට. මම හිතන්නේ group assignment එක තියෙන මේ recording presentation එක. SI remember. ඒක තියෙනවා course outline එකේ. ඔයාලා බැලුවද? course outline එක. I think there is some video is on. Let me few minutes. Maybe